Hi guys, my name is Joel, and I know that most people out there are struggling with this. What do I mean? Well, some people have knowledge of basic shading techniques. There are like over a dozen of them. Some people know them and say, oh, well, I know a lot of shading techniques, but most people actually fail to apply them to their drawings. And some people don't even have knowledge of shading techniques at all. And if you're a beginner, you're most likely struggling with this problem right here. So, imagine you're done sketching your artwork and you might have even highlighted it, but there's something about it that still doesn't look realistic. So, you think about shading it to make it look more appealing to the eye, but you're hesitant because you're not very skilled, or you might not even know how to shade at all. So you just go ahead and wing it. And more often than not, it ends up making your drawings look like this. But I'm here to fix that because this video is made for exactly that. Not only am I going to teach you how to shade, but I'm going to teach you how to look good doing it. And no, I'm not going to show you how to look more handsome or pretty as you draw, but I'm going to show you how to shade the smart way. So, let's go. Okay, so once you've gotten everything you need, which is a piece of paper and a pencil, it's time to actually start sketching your artwork, which is the first stage of drawing. Now, for this video, we're going to draw an apple, and most importantly, we're going to shade it using the method called hatching. This is one of the most common shading techniques there are. It involves mainly using these parallel lines that all flow in the same direction. It's very dynamic, and I think it's a really good shading technique which you should be using on your artworks. And the reason why I chose this technique particularly is because it's very good for learning the basics of shading. But if you would like to learn more shading techniques, I have videos on this channel that can teach you the different techniques that are there. So feel free to click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on anything new. And believe me, you don't want to miss the next upload. So now, all that aside, we finally have the knowledge of the shading technique that we want to use. Well, first and foremost, you'll want to sketch first and then highlight, and shading should always be the last stage of your drawing. So we have our reference right there, and now it's time to begin sketching. So feel free to change the playback speed of this video in the settings icon on your screen, and notice how faint these strokes are looking right now. Well, it's because during the first stages, it's not exactly supposed to be very dark, really. You're supposed to highlight it after you're sure of how your line should be. And also hold back on using the eraser during the sketching process. I mean, the whole point of sketching is to use the eraser less. So that's the reason why you should make your lines as faint as possible. So now there's this part where you have to add a bit of darkness to some parts that you're actually sure of, but make sure that these parts aren't changed because when you erase, it might leave traces of them. So just going to highlight this part and make it a bit darker to add that natural shading feel, even though I haven't yet started shading it. So now I'm going to erase in these parts that I didn't highlight yet in order to add that spiky leaf structure. Yeah, sometimes it can be useful to highlight, and then erase, so that the faint line that comes after you erase acts as a guide for you to follow. Alright, so now that you're done highlighting everything, it's time for the main part, shading. Now notice how I've changed the pencil that I was using from before. Well, that's because there's specific types of pencils which you need to use, but we can talk about that some other time. Now it's time we started using those parallel lines to make this shade. So we're going to keep doing this until we finally come up with something that looks like this. And thereafter, we can finally start adding some final touches, just as I am doing right now. The lighter part is where the light is coming from, while the darker part is its shadow. Now we're going to be shading from the darker part going to the lighter part. And now it's time we started adding them lines. Yeah. And also be sure that you have ample time to do this, because if there are any interruptions, it would be a shame that you'd have to return to it. Get it? Apple. Wow. Hopefully your drawing isn't as worse as my jokes. Okay, so now that we're done with that, it's time to add the shadow at the bottom. Since now it basically looks as though it's a floating apple, which we don't want, we're going to add a down part so that it looks like it's on the floor. So basically, the main construct of this is that it's supposed to start a bit dark as it gets closer to the apple, while it fades away into being lighter as it moves away from the apple. So let's do this. One more thing is, don't get discouraged if this does not go the way you wanted it to. It really doesn't really matter how good it looks, but how much you're improving is what matters. So the best thing you need to do is, after you're done with this, keep the drawing and keep the paper where you drew it on. Wait, the paper and the drawing, don't they like go together? Okay, fine, just keep it, okay? Don't throw it away, because you're going to have to track your progress. You shouldn't just throw it away just because it looks bad, but you should keep it so that you're able to see how much you're improving. Also, be sure to practice this, because practice beats knowledge every time. See you in the next upload. Razor.